Good morning, everyone. I'm David Wallace. I'm the Dean of the College of Liberal Arts, and it is my pleasure to welcome you this morning on behalf of the college and of the Department of Economics. The Department of Economics has had a strong commitment to this event for the better part of 2 decades now, or is it 3? 2 decades, yes. A number of the members of the Department of Economics are with us this morning, including their chair, Wade Martin, who just confirmed the 2 decades for me. I'd like the members of the department to stand so we can recognize you for your ongoing commitment to this event. We're joined by a number of guests this morning. I'm delighted that the Honorable Robert Garcia, our mayor, is with us this morning. I'm even more delighted that he is an alumnus of my college. A number of our friends from the university community are here as well. Our provost and executive vice president, Dr. David Dowell, is here. Our Vice President for the Division of Administration and Finance, Mary Stevens, is with us. And we also have a couple of our other deans, Mike Solt from the College of Business Administration. There he is. And Cyrus Parker Jeanette, the Dean of the College of the Arts, is with us as well. I need to take a moment to recognize the tireless work of Professor Heather Stevens. She works year-round on this event, and of course her main duties are the analyses and the program that we will enjoy in a few minutes. But sometimes I think she works just as hard on the physical arrangements. So will you all join me in thanking Dr. Heather Stevens for her work? It's my honor today to introduce our president, Dr. Jane Close Conley. She joined us last summer, and she has been working very hard to meet many of you in the community, so I'm sure for some of you no introduction is needed. But for those of you who have not met her yet, I thought I would share a little bit about her background. She received her PhD in school psychology from the University of Texas at Austin, so don't ask her any questions about economics today. She's been a faculty member at Texas Women's University and Syracuse Universities. She was Associate Dean for Research at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln Teachers College, and she was a Dean at Texas A&M University. In 2006, she had the good sense to get out of the Midwest and move to California. And since then, she has served as both interim chancellor at the University of California, Riverside, and most recently as dean of the Graduate School of Education at the University of California, Santa Barbara. She's the author or editor of 21 books. I've seen them in the library. They're this wide, and over 100 refereed journal articles, book chapters, and technical reports. Her research focuses on critical topics related to the education of children with disabilities. I could go on about her many academic accomplishments, but I thought you might find it more interesting if I told you the story of the first time that President Conley came to an event for the College of Liberal Arts. Our Department of Psychology was holding a science day for middle school girls from the Cabrillo villages, and our new president, who'd been on campus only for about a week or two, was invited to come and welcome these young women. I arrived early that morning, wanting to impress my new boss, and I walked into a room filled with 35 bright young 13-year-old girls. I had not seen that much compressed energy in a enclosed setting since I foolishly let a friend take me to a shopping mall at midnight on a Black Friday. As I was there waiting for the president to arrive, I was a little bit nervous because if for some reason she wasn't going to be able to make it, it was going to be my job to welcome those 13-year-old girls, and I had no idea how I would corral all of that energy. Well, fortunately, the president was able to join us, and she proved more than equal to that task. She answered all of the questions those girls had, she made them laugh, and more importantly, she made them feel welcome at our university. I'm fairly sure that a couple of those girls left with the inkling of an idea that they too might be able to be a university president someday. In the week or so after that, because the president was still new, whenever anyone found out that I'd been in an event with her, they would ask me, "What's she like?" Is she going to be good at this? And I would just tell them that story and say, if she can handle that situation, she can handle anything that this job is going to throw at her. And I'm delighted to say that that has proved to be the case. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the president of the California State University at Long Beach, Dr. Jane Close Conley.
Thank you very much, David. I had almost forgotten that. That literally was my first time in that psychology building. I was searching for the building. Now that seems ridiculous. It's actually quite a large building. I don't know why I had trouble finding it. Well, I'm so glad you can join us this morning at this Regional Economic Forum for 2015. This is my first one. I did meet with Dr. Stevens quite a while ago. Then she disappeared. She's been working so hard. I haven't seen her since then. We're really proud of the work being done by our Office of Economic Research and our Department of Economics. Are you all right there? All at one table, huh? You don't spread out and talk to other people? Okay. Just checking. It's a great place to be able to talk about this. I'm new to Long Beach relatively, but I've been so impressed by the economic vitality of the area, the possibilities of the area, and I know that we'll all learn from Dr. Stevens' update on the economic trends and expert opinions of our panelists, which I'm equally looking forward to. We at Cal State Long Beach are absolutely committed to reinforcing the great partnerships we already have with our business, industry, all the partners in the city and the region. That's really the future of our university. As we face a balancing act with state support, our steps will be to form win-win partnerships with industry all around our region. And we have some great ones already, and we can see the benefit to our students, to our faculty, and to the university's relevance to the region. We want to be the anchor, one of the great anchor institutions for this region, that people say, we come here because you have a great university, and our university is made greater because of the region. So I'll stop there because I have the honor of introducing Cal State Long Beach alumnus, a great beach supporter. I like that he's out on the road talking all the time because he says nice things about our university. Our esteemed mayor, who is a double alumnus, by the way, Dr. Robert Garcia. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Well, it's obviously a pleasure to be here. I love coming to events where I get to see the university really come out and be an important leader in the conversations we have in the city of Long Beach and really across the region. And of course, I want to thank Dr. Connolly for being such a great new addition to the city of Long Beach. We're obviously very happy to have her here, and let's give her another round of applause for her leadership. This is an event that I've attended in the past and has happened for many years and is very important to the conversation in the city of Long Beach about economic development, about jobs, about business development throughout the city of Long Beach. We are, as we all probably know, entering a new era of economic development, one that relies a lot more on technology, on innovation, on quick changes to the economy. And it's important that we gather in events like this one to think about where we are as a community today and where we're going. I'm really proud that the city of Long Beach is focused, incredibly so, on this idea of what economic development for the 21st century really means. And we're committed to partnering first and foremost with the university, with our business community, with the chamber, with the airport, with all the sectors, healthcare, to really build a new economic development model for the city for decades to come. And I want to share just a few brief items that we're working on to get that started. One of the first things that I did as mayor is I restructured our internal economic development department within the city of Long Beach. A lot of that team is here. Guys, I know I saw you guys, Juan and the crew. Give yourselves a round of applause. Give them a round of applause. Wave your hand real quick. Mike and Juan. They're focused on ensuring that the city is as business friendly and moving the economic development team forward every single day. And so I want to thank you guys for your support. We also have, and I installed, which had been active for many years, an all-star economic development commission of 11 members. They just started meeting, I believe, about a month ago. And in fact, one of the Cal State Long Beach deans, Cyrus, who's here at my table from the College of the Arts, is on that commission, as well as a lot of other great leaders in the community. And you may ask, well, why is the dean of the College of the Arts on an economic development commission? And the answer is simple. The creative economy in Southern California, the creative economy in Long Beach is incredibly important to the full economic picture of the region. And if you think about Cal State Long Beach, which produces almost more artists than anywhere west of the Mississippi, it's one of the largest art schools, if not, I think the largest art school west of the Mississippi, the amount of jobs that these designers, dancers, musicians are adding to the economy is immense. And so people like Cyrus, the creative economy, the healthcare economy, the technology and innovation changes that are happening are all an important part of this picture. So we have this great commission, we have this great department at the city, we're building new partnerships, especially with industry like the Port of Long Beach. A lot of people don't realize the Port of Long Beach is the largest provider of jobs, the goods movement industry for the city of Long Beach. So we're really proud. And you're also going to see over the course of the next 6 months, our Economic Development Commission partnered up with the City Council. They're going to be launching a new strategic plan that we're going to be working with and rolling out in the coming months. Hopefully we're going to work with the university on this, and that will kind of set the stage for the next decade so that we know exactly where the picture is. And it's events like this that inform us about where we need to go. So I'm really proud of the progress. I'm obviously very proud of Cal State Long Beach. They're the best, and I want to thank the economic department at the university for doing this and being so important and to inform us about where we need to go. So thank you all. Go Beach.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mayor Garcia, President Connolly, Dean Wallace. I'm going to start off by telling you that I've been fighting a cold all week, so let's just hope that my voice lasts through this entire event. But I did try to stay home yesterday, work on my talk, and not speak all day, so hopefully that helped a little bit. For those of you who don't know me, I am Heather Stevens. I am the director of the Office of Economic Research in the Department of Economics at Cal State Long Beach. I'm going to try to get this go down a little bit. Okay. Sorry about that. And today I am going to give you a regional economic overview, and then we're going to hear from our panelists. But before I do, I have some thank yous that I need to give. First, I want to thank the Department of Economics, my colleagues, especially our administrative staff. When you came in today, you probably saw Nicole Torres out there helping with registration. She is still out there helping, and hopefully she'll be able to hear this, but let's give her all a big round of applause for helping out today. I also want to acknowledge SMG and all the folks here at the Long Beach Convention and Entertainment Center for their help in making this event a success. The nice design work that was done by the independent designer that I worked with, Myra Greenlee, and our local printers here in Long Beach, Queen Beach Printers, for their great work. Beacon Economics, who contributed some of the analysis that I'll talk about today. Dean Wallace and Howie Fitzgerald from the College of Liberal Arts for their help in organizing and getting some of the lists together. Our IT person from the college, who's not here, but who is the one that saved our registration site and saved me from going insane in getting you guys registered. A couple of students who specifically helped out, Sierra Lofstrom and Annette Kunitsa, who helped with some of the analysis, as well as all the student volunteers who got up early this morning to help out. And finally, a special thank you to all of you who are here today, especially our major sponsors at the platinum and gold level, the Port of Long Beach, Beacon Economics, Molina Healthcare, and the LA County Supervisors. Finally, thank you all for being here today. I hope you're going to enjoy the presentations. Let's give a big round of applause for the sponsors. Okay, today we're going to talk about the Long Beach economy. But before we can do so, we have to put it all in context. Because what happens here in Long Beach doesn't happen in a vacuum. The Long Beach economic future is affected by what's going on in the global economy, the national economy, and everything else that's happening in terms of economic and regional trends. So before we talk about specifics about Long Beach and Greater Long Beach, I want to talk a little bit more about this context that we operate in. What's going on globally? Well, everyone probably knows the global sort of economic picture is kind of unsteady. Slower growth in China, weakness in Japan, and many people believe this is going to lead to a spillover all throughout Asia, which could be problematic given our high dependence on the West Coast with trade with Asia. Then there's this continuing uncertainty about the economic future in Europe and sort of the wild cards of Greece and the more recent refugee crisis. Then, sort of related to this, is this exchange rate effect. How much will the rising dollar reduce our exports? How might this affect our economy, the national economy? These are things we have to be aware of when we try to think about the future of our local economy. Then there's the national economy. How strong really is it? Well, there's some signs it's on the upswing. Housing sales are up, but consumer confidence is somewhat flat. And while there are wage increases, they've stayed at about 2% per year for about the last decade. Not really a promising sign that we're seeing a big upturn. Then there's the risk of declining oil production and declining oil prices, which threatens portions of our economy, even here locally. And the risk of declining exports, again, due to the powerful dollar that I just spoke about. The sort of elephant in the room is, when will the Federal Reserve raise its interest rates? Up until recently, there was some talk that it might be June. That's doubtful at this point. And that's because the uncertainty in our national economy lingers. The Federal Reserve wants to see that we're on a steady path of growth before they want to do anything to take us off that. But if they do, how will these rising interest rates affect consumer confidence, home sales? Home sales being one of the few sort of bright spots in the national economy. These are things that we don't really know the answers to, but we have to be aware of if we're going to think about the future of this region. We have to be aware of what's going on in the context in which we operate. And then we can't go any further without talking about the drought. The new statewide reductions are probably only the first step in addressing what is likely to be a long-term shortage. It's going to require a restructuring of the way we think about water in this region and innovative ideas. People don't talk about this much, but there are business opportunities with the drought. Opportunities to find innovative ways to deal with water usage, to reduce water usage, innovations that could come here from people here in Long Beach. But it's also likely to lead to higher costs and more long-term, the closing of businesses and losses of jobs in certain sectors. The drought is going to have some major implications in this region, and we can't ignore them if we're trying to think about the economic future. Every year I've talked about the national labor force participation rate, and I really wish that I could come up here today and say that the picture is better. But we continue to have low levels of labor force participation in this country at levels that we had not seen since the early 1970s. This is at the same time that labor force participation by women and by people over 55 is up. So as you can see from the graph, labor force participation by younger workers continues to trend downward or stay stable. This is problematic because those are the workers who don't already have the experience to get a job once the economy improves. So the longer you're out of work and you don't already have experience, the more unlikely it is that you're going to be able to recover when the economy does tick up. And this is something that we do need to be concerned about. And you think it's just nationally, but no, it's here as well. So the labor force participation rate in LA County is about the same as the national average. And despite gains, the LA County unemployment rate still is higher than both the state and national average. So we're doing better than we were a year ago. We're ticking in the right direction, but we still have this problem with people dropping out of the workforce and people who are still technically in the workforce unable to find jobs. I mentioned that nationally, home sales are up, and that's happening here too in LA County. Prices are up year over year, month over month. And in March, the most recent data shows that the volume of home sales in LA County was up 11% from March of 2014. However, this is still 18% below the average since 1988. So we're at a rate here in LA County that is still much lower than the home sale rate that had been in the past. So what's going to happen then with our local housing market? What does the future hold? Well, one thing is that housing prices are likely to continue to rise. More people are likely to look for homes as the economic recovery continues, and they're willing to now take the risk to buy a home. However, as that happens, then we get into more and more problems of affordability. So when prices were down, it was relatively more affordable. But as prices rise, then we have to face those affordability issues once again. And then, again, we can't forget interest rates. There could be some dampening of this both growth in terms of sales as well as the raise in prices if interest rates go up and it becomes relatively more expensive to buy the same priced home. So everyone wants to know what's happening with employment. And jobs and wages for Greater Long Beach are the key to our region's recovery. We can't forget that. In order for us to recover, we have to find a way to employ people who live here and find a way to make them live a wage that allows them to live here comfortably. So we're going to now turn to what's happening in the different sectors in Long Beach. But I'm not going to just talk about the city of Long Beach. The city of Long Beach doesn't operate in a vacuum, and there are many people here from surrounding communities who consider themselves part of the Greater Long Beach region. So when I talk about the employment numbers, rather than just pulling numbers for the city of Long Beach, I'm going to talk about employment in this outlined area on the map, what I consider the Greater Long Beach region. I know this isn't a special defined region, but sort of in the interest of sort of thinking what's happening regionally, I don't mean big LA metro area, but Long Beach regionally, decided to look at this map. And if you've been here before, you've seen this same sort of map before. So in 2014, what were the top industries in the region? For the first time, healthcare, manufacturing, travel and entertainment, retail, and so on and so on. Now, healthcare jumped ahead because of the reclassification of home health workers. And you're going to see in this next slide that it looks like there was this huge, huge jump. We won't see that again if we look at these numbers next year. But you can see that some of the areas where we sort of expect some growth, travel and entertainment, retail, wholesale trade, others, but then some areas you might not have expected that there were some declines. So we're going to talk more specifically then about some of these regions. First of all, healthcare. I showed you that there was a big jump, although part of that was the reclassification of workers. And so while it was a positive jump, probably not as high as what that looks. But healthcare was definitely impacted by the implementation of the Affordable Care Act and Covered California. Here in California, a survey by the Kaiser Family Foundation found that about 3.4 million new Californians were covered either by the Covered California plans or by Medi-Cal. And I'm sure that when John Molina comes up here, he can talk more about what's happening in their company as a result of this. And these newly insured need new providers. And so we are well positioned here in the Greater Long Beach region with a number of hospitals and many other kinds of healthcare providers to take advantage of this, to help these people be these providers for these people. And so you can see that there has been some increase, slight decrease in year over year in hospital employment, but otherwise there's some increases going on in these areas, and I expect now with the full implementation that we'll see this continue to go up as our numbers only go through the third quarter of 2014. What about manufacturing? Well, we've talked in the past, and you've noticed over the last 20 years the decline, but as you can see, in the last few years, manufacturing employment has held steady. Some jobs are going away, but some new jobs are coming in online here. We're going to hear later from Will Pomerantz about Virgin Galactic and their plans here in Long Beach. Gulfstream has also been ramping up its production, and other smaller manufacturing firms with 10 or fewer employees have also contribute to these numbers. And so manufacturing is actually holding steady, and if you went back to that original graph, it was roughly even year over year. That's good news. The decline seems to not be quite as severe as what we'd experienced 10 years ago. Of course, travel and tourism is on everyone's minds. You couldn't miss it walking from the parking garage over here today. The Grand Prix fences were still up, and I know that caused some confusion getting over here. I apologize. We were hoping they'd be down before today, and our event planner here at the Convention Center was hoping so too, but they were told they would be down yesterday, but clearly that didn't happen. But this is a bright spot. This is an area where, as the economy ticks up, more businesses, more people start to travel. And as we speak today, here at the Convention Center, there's one of the largest hotel conferences going on also here in Long Beach. And another good sign for the regional economy is this uptick in, what the Economic Development Department calls food and drink establishments, but we call restaurants. And you probably have noticed this if you live in Long Beach. I know I have. In my neighborhood alone, at least 3 or 4 new restaurants have opened in the last year. And that's great news if you like to eat out like I do. So now you have more options. But it's also a sign of an economy that is slowly getting better. This is probably one of the sort of first signs that an economy is getting better at a local level, because this doesn't require big investments by new manufacturers. It doesn't require people to come from outside. It just requires people who live in a community to feel a little more comfortable about their economic situation, that they're willing to spend a little more money going out to eat. And so I think this is a good sort of sign that the economy in Long Beach and the greater Long Beach region is ticking upwards. Retail trade is also going up. Again, people are going out shopping. You only shop when you have a little more money to spend. We can't really forget the importance of government employment. It was one of the top 10 areas, especially local employment. And you can see that local government, after sort of declining, has ticked upwards slightly. And again, that's partially a sign of a more robust economy. able to do things like have a robust economic development team at the city, other kinds of staff like that that will lead to economic growth in the city. Now, I could go on and on and on and show you a graph of every single industry, subsector, you name it, but I think that I'm going to stop with those and end with transportation and warehousing. Transportation and warehousing are a lot of the jobs associated with the port, or the ports. And you can see, as probably not expected, a slight downtick in 2014, partially due to some of the slowdown, although we're not really expecting this to be a long-term trend. So let's talk then a little bit more about the impact of the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. And this is some of the analysis that Beacon Economics helped us with for today. So in 2014, the two ports together ranked 5th in the nation in terms of the amount of exports and shipped about 4.8% of all the goods leaving the US. And we do really believe that this slowdown is transitory. The recent clearing of the backlog of ships should lead to growth in the future, and so I don't think there's anything to be worried about, except the wild card of Asia. So here's what happened in terms of the exports. Slight downturn in 2014. And here is some of the top commodities. You can see some of the downturns were things like industrial machinery, although I was kind of surprised to see this big upturn in meat. I guess there's a new demand for US meat abroad. Here's why I said what I said about Asia. The top export destinations for the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles are primarily Asia and Australia. Only about a third go to other destinations. And you can see that China dwarfs the rest. The economic downturn, or slower growth, since it's China, could have some impact in terms of the volume and dollar amounts of exports leaving these ports. And that could be a risk to our regional economy. There's nothing we can do about that. And so we just have to accept that and think about how we can do other things to help our economy. You can also see that the export value and the share of exports for both ports has kind of converged to a similar percentage and dollar value. And so both ports play a very important part in the economy of our greater region. What about small businesses? I mentioned earlier that restaurants and retail employment is up. Small businesses can have a really strong impact on a regional economy. Earnings from small businesses are much more likely to stay in the local economy and have the multiplier effect across the economy. So Scott Flexo from the business school at Cal State Long Beach has run the Long Beach Small Business Monitor Survey for the last few years, and he most recently surveyed them in January. Here's what he found out. Well, just a few of his findings. First of all, they were asked about their view of the economy in the coming year. Unfortunately, only about 14% think it's going to get better. And 56% of those surveyed thought it might become worse. So there is some pessimism among the small business owners here in the city, in the area, and that's something to be concerned about. The other thing that we found is that they were asked if they would start a business today in Long Beach. And only about 32% said they would start it here. A large number, 41%, said they wouldn't even consider starting a business anywhere, and 27% said they would start it somewhere else. Small businesses can be really important to our economy, and so this presents an opportunity for the region to try to figure out why they're pessimistic, what their challenges are, and to try to help them. And then I think it's interesting, given the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, that over the last year, attitudes among small business owners have really sort of improved in terms of the Affordable Care Act or Covered California. There was some concern that this would be very detrimental to small businesses. And yet, in 2015, only 10% of small business owners believe that it's bad for their business. So that means that it must be doing something that the sort of critics or those who were worried about it didn't expect. Now I'm going to turn to something that's probably near and dear to the hearts of us at Cal State Long Beach, which is sort of the educated workforce. So the research that I do in the academic world has to do with the importance of an educated workforce and how it can lead to economic growth for regions. And there's also some evidence that in a big region like LA Metro, the spillovers from the rest of the region may not be enough. So if you want to have growth here in Long Beach, just having educated workers somewhere else in the metro area might not be enough. In the city of Long Beach, this is concerning because only 28.5% of the population over 25 has a bachelor's degree or higher, and this is lower than all of LA County, all of Orange County, and even the state. So what's happening? Well, we have over 35,000 students at Cal State Long Beach. Why aren't more of them staying in Long Beach? And so earlier this academic year, in fall of 2014, we actually emailed graduates from about 2005 to 2014 of the university to find out why they live where they live. What motivates them to choose their current location? And what did we learn? We found that about 74% of them actually live in the greater LA, Orange County metro area. So they're staying in this region, but only 17% are here in Long Beach. So what motivates those who did stay to stay? And one is that they lived here during school. Another thing we found is that surprisingly, even relative to the greater LA Orange County metro region, those who like being near the beach, who like urban amenities, prefer to be here in Long Beach. So why aren't we capturing these people? Well, those who decided to leave mostly left for jobs. And they also were more likely to leave the greater LA region if jobs were their motivator. So what does this tell us? What are the implications of this survey? Because they can be quite important to our region. First, there is an opportunity to work together regionally to capture more of these graduates. They spend 4 or more years taking classes on our campus. Why aren't we capturing them? How can we better match students with available jobs? How can we connect students to the area where they attend school? How can we find a way, even if they commute, to show them the positive attributes of the Long Beach region? How can we make Cal State Long Beach graduates lifelong residents of the greater Long Beach community? These are questions we need to answer because we're missing an opportunity here. So just a couple final thoughts. The greater Long Beach region has a wealth of new leaders. We heard from 2 of them today, President Connolly, Mayor Garcia. There's a new leader at the port, a new leader at the Long Beach Airport who's here today. There are probably many, many, many other new regional leaders. This is a perfect time for us to think outside the box and try to capitalize on our regional resources. This is a perfect time to bring in these new ideas and figure out what might we do differently to sort of set ourselves up for regional growth. We need to think about what we want our regional economy to look like 5, 10, 15, 20 years in the future. How can we support entrepreneurs? How can we make it easier for them to start small businesses? How can we retain and attract the right talent? How will we deal with the drought? Now is the time to think about these questions and others, and think about how we can shape the future instead of react to the future. And I think that is a perfect time to stop. Thank you. Okay, now before you stop having to hear me, I'm going to introduce our panel of industry experts. So if the three of you could please come up. I'm going to introduce them first, and then we'll hear from all three of them. So it's fitting that I said we should begin the dialogue about the future. It's fitting that we have the pleasure of having three distinguished industry experts here today to talk about their companies, their industries, and how it impacts our regional economy. So I'm going to introduce each of them first, and then we're going to hear from them some remarks from each of them. And for lack of a better order, we decided to just go alphabetically, okay? For my students, I usually use a random number generator. So our first panelist is John Molina. John is the Chief Financial Officer of Molina Healthcare, and in that capacity, he oversees all the financial and corporate development functions at the company, including accounting, finance, treasury, investor relations, marketing, human resources, and market expansion. And I thought I had a lot to do. During his tenure, Molina has gone public, expanded its footprint from 4 to 17 states, and doubled the Medicaid population it covers. He also serves on the board of directors of the Los Angeles branch of the Federal Reserve Bank, as chairman of the board of directors of the Aquarium of the Pacific, and on the boards of the Long Beach Convention and Visitors Bureau and the 49er Foundation at Cal State Long Beach. And these current board memberships continue his long history of service to the region's organizations. John is also a graduate of California State University, Long Beach. Where he was elected to the Phi Beta Kappa Academic Honor Society, and he also has a law degree from USC. Thank you, John, for being here today. Our second panelist is Will Pomerantz. Will is the... People want to clap today. Yeah. People want to clap today. Will is the Vice President of Special Projects for Virgin Galactic. And in this capacity, he is responsible for expanding Virgin Galactic's business beyond space tourism. This includes efforts such as the orbital launch vehicles for small satellites and establishing research programs on board Virgin Galactic's Spaceship Two. Prior to joining Virgin Galactic, he ran space prize programs at the X Prize Foundation, including the $30 million Google Lunar X Prize and $2 million Northrop Grumman Lunar Lander X Challenge. He also worked at Brown University and the United Nations. Will is a member of the Federal Aviation Administration's Commerce Space Transportation Advisory Committee and is the chair of the board of Advisors of Students in Exploration and Development of Space. Will also supports other efforts to increase participation in space-related fields, such as through the Professional Development Committee of Women in Aerospace and through spacealumni.com. Will is a graduate of Harvard University. Thank you, Will, for being here today. Our third panelist is Tim Seeley. Tim is the director. They want to be fair, right? They want to do it for everyone. Thank you very much. Tim is the Director of Operations and Administration for Boeing Commercial Airplanes in Southern California. In that capacity, he oversees all operations of the Long Beach Engineering Design Center. At Boeing, Tim has also been a Director of Commercial Sales for the Americas and of Marketing and Product and Channel Development. He has led the commercialization of new projects and developed sales efforts in both North America and South America. Tim has over 30 years of experience in commercial aircraft, flight deck, and avionics engineering, airplane program design, and international trade and business development. He was lead engineer on the first glass cockpit door for a McDonnell Douglas commercial airplane. For a number of years, Tim also served as an engineering representative for the Federal Aviation Administration. Tim is also active in the local community and is a member of the board of directors of the American Red Cross, Greater Long Beach Chapter, and Breathe California of Los Angeles. Tim received his Bachelor of Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering from Oregon State University and an MBA from UCLA. Thank you, Tim, for being here today.
Thank you.
I think that you've probably heard more than you want to from me. So I'm going to pull up the first presentation and turn it over to John, who will tell us a little bit about Molina Healthcare.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Not only am I a graduate of Cal State Long Beach, but I'm a graduate of the economics department. And I will say that a lot of what I learned in the economics department has really shaped my views on business and what we do at Molina Healthcare. If you've attended this conference in the past, you know that Dr. Magadino liked to talk about ties to the local economy and various movies. And so this morning while I was shaving, I was thinking, well, what movie sort of describes Molina? And really, it occurred to me it was Birdman. Because the whole title of Birdman is Birdman, or the Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. When my dad started the company in 1980, he started with one clinic. He was a physician, not a businessman. I was in high school. I worked with my dad since day one. My brother, who is now our CEO, came to us in 1991, 11 years after the business started, but he was a physician. We at Molina never realized, we were ignorant, that we probably shouldn't have been in business for as long as we have or been as successful as we have. We just keep going, the little engine that could, so to speak, and today we've grown from one clinic. We now employ 11,000 people nationwide, and we take care of 2.8 million people. This slide's a little old. I think we're up to 3.3 now. We have healthcare operations in 16 states, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. And while we pride ourselves on being an innovative healthcare leader, what I wanted to focus today on was something that we really don't talk about a lot in healthcare, and that is really, Molina has become an innovative technology leader. And I know the mayor likes to talk a lot about the strength of the Long Beach economy going forward should focus on high tech. Well, this is Molina's high tech story. We have 4 campuses here in Long Beach. We started with a single clinic, and now we have over 3,000 employees here. Since 2013, we've increased the number of people here working in Long Beach by 30%. So that's about 1,000 people we've added. We've added 700 people this year alone. I mean, it's an incredible tip of the cap to our HR department and the folks who do the recruiting. The company continues to grow. A lot of it is because of the Affordable Care Act. In 2013, we generated $6 billion in revenue. This year, 2 years later, we will exceed $12 billion. So it took us 33 years to go from 0 revenue to $6 billion, and 2 years to add another $6 billion. That's how fast this company is growing. Let's see if this works. This is we took over the Press Telegram complex. And again, this is another example of where ignorance is a virtue. My wife, whose background, who is also a Cal State grad, became a developer out of necessity. She didn't know what she was doing, and I think it turned out pretty nice. And I wish I could get the, let's see if this works here. I guess it's not. That's supposed to be a time lapse of the building. You want to try? It's great. I love it.
I tested it for you.
You did. This is why I'm the CFO and not the head of IT. There we go. And we in Molina realize that you've got to invest in the future. We run on a very, very tight margin. In fact, our margin is 1%. It's 1% because I rounded up. But we have to invest in our future, otherwise we won't stay in business. So a couple of years ago, we began a project with Cal State Long Beach to recruit interns to come help us so they could learn the business, and we would have a pipeline of employees because we had a lot of problems hiring and recruiting folks for the IT field. We have 25 interns employed, 8 in IT. We have postgraduate interns. We've got 15 internships this summer. We actually hired 84 people through this program. We've also started working with the business administration and their IT folks on IT security. We actually have helped them develop some curriculum. This is our campus at 6th and Pine, downtown Long Beach, where we have 1,000 Molina employees in IT. We are a high-tech company. And we have 80 people living in the area. So when you bring jobs to an area, you can increase residents. I spoke about us being an IT company. We monitor 7,000 servers. And what's in those servers? 13 petabytes of storage. That's enough to store the DNA 39 times. This is how much we put into that campus in terms of people and products. In 2009, it was $27 million. $145 million, that's our IT budget for last year, and $160 for this year. This is not a space shuttle launch. This is actually our operations center, again, downtown Long Beach. And when we think of high tech, I think a lot of people think of software development or apps. This is how you run a big business with IT. 783 people do software design. 72 are support of the corporate systems, email, et cetera. 53 in security. This is our fastest growing area of IT. IT security. You've heard about or read about the folks that get hacked. We, so far, have not had a breach of security. It is, however, a topic of discussion at each of our board meetings, and I think we're doing a fantastic job. Desktop support, voice and data, storage, disaster recovery. Again, we have operations running 24/7, and so we've got folks making sure that it's up and running, and our uptime is fantastic. Quality assurance and management. So when you think about a healthcare company, most folks think about doctors and nurses. We have lots of doctors and nurses that work for us. But in this economy, as we move forward, management of data is as important. 6% of our folks who are eligible for Medicare drive 53% of the costs in our company. Those are some very fragile people out there that we are entrusted to take care of. But we've got to figure out which 6% they are, how to get them the right resources. And that is how you bend the cost curve in healthcare. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Hi, I'm Will. It's wonderful to be here. I appreciate the warm welcome I've gotten from you here today, but more importantly, on behalf of my colleagues, I appreciate the warm welcome that all of us at Virgin Galactic have gotten from everyone in the greater Long Beach community. You know, we've been Long Beach residents for a whopping, I think, 7 weeks now. I would say the paint is not yet dry on the building, but we haven't yet put the paint on the building. We're really new. Pretty soon, I'm sure we'll be ringing your doorbells and asking to borrow a cup of sugar or something along those lines. But I will say, and I'll get to this more later, that we've really been very touched by the warm welcome that we've gotten here from the entire community. So thanks to each of you for that. Because what we do at Virgin Galactic is a little different, we're sort of the first company of our type, I thought I'd begin by telling you a little bit about what we're doing and why in a global sense before I get more specifically into what we're doing here in Long Beach. And I thought I'd start with this particular bit of historical context. This is a number that I pretty literally think about every day in the morning, first thing when I wake up, right after I check in on my family. This is the total number of human beings who have ever been to outer space. From Yuri Gagarin, the first human in orbit 54 years ago this month, to the crew of 6 people who are orbiting above our heads right now on the International Space Station. Now, when I think of this number, I have 2 simultaneous and somewhat contradictory thoughts. The first is I feel very fortunate to be alive in a time when this number isn't 0. But on the other hand, I also get really angry because this number is nowhere near as high as it should be. You know, if you, like me, if you grew up watching not only the real launches of NASA and other government space agencies, but if you also grew up watching, you know, Star Wars, Star Trek, The Jetsons, 2001, pick your sci-fi movie, and someone had asked you when you were a little kid what this number was going to be in 2015, I imagine many of you would have given the same answer I would have given, which is as high a number as I can think of. Surely by the time of 2015, we'll all have not only hoverboards and flying cars, we'll all have our own personal spaceships. We'll be able to travel to space. And we won't necessarily do it as government employees. We might do it just because we bought a ticket, because space is a wonderful place to go as a tourist, or because it's a faster way to get from point A to point B, or it's a great place for us to do research that we can't do here on the ground. My boss and our founder, Sir Richard Branson, is one of those who grew up watching the Apollo missions. He saw Neil and Buzz and the others hopping around on the surface of the moon in 1969 and figured, well, surely by the time I'm grown up, I'll get a chance to do that. That didn't happen. The UK doesn't really have a human spaceflight program, and if they did, I can bet you they would not have picked Sir Richard as one of their astronauts. He's a guy who's pretty famous for not following rules, and that generally doesn't play very nicely in the astronaut corps. So as he grew older, he eventually realized, well, if I'm going to get up there, it's going to be because someone is selling me a ticket, and no one's selling me a ticket, so dang it, I'll sell myself a ticket, and all my friends too. And so that's where the idea of Virgin Galactic was born. Came up he actually registered the name Virgin Galactic in the mid-1990s, spent about a decade going out and looking for a technology that could allow us to do this, to carry human beings into space, both affordably and safely. And it was finding those 2 things together that was really the crux of the problem. There were plenty of companies who could do affordable, there were plenty of companies who could do safe, but just one of those wasn't good enough. He kept looking until finally, in the early 2000s, he found a company about 2 hours up the road from here in Kern County, Mojave, California, a little company called Scaled Composites. This ragtag group of dozens of people, no more than that, that in 2004 built and flew the world's first ever commercially designed and operated human spaceflight vehicle. Flew into space 3 times. It now hangs in the Smithsonian right above Neil and Buzz's Apollo 11 capsule, right next to Charles Lindbergh's vehicle, right next to Chuck Yeager's vehicle. It's in the Sistine Chapel of Aerospace, as it were. And so he went to that company that had designed this thing really just as a technology demonstrator to show it could be done. And he said, hey, I want to license your technology, bring it to market, and start selling tickets. And so that's what we're doing. This is the vision here. We want everyone in this room who has a desire to go to space, we want to give you the ability to go to space. We want to do it at a price point that perhaps not everyone can afford, but a lot more people than have ever been able to afford it before can save up for this if this is something important to you. I'll point out these are all real photographs, I think, from here on out. There's one obvious exception, perhaps, but these are real pictures of the real system. I'll tell you a little bit about the flights that we offer. If you fly to space with us, as I hope many of you will, you'll begin by coming to this facility. This is the world's first ever purpose-built commercial spaceport. So here in Long Beach, we're familiar with ports and airports. This is the same kind of thing, except it takes you to space. This one happens to be in the southern part of the state of New Mexico, right next to the White Sands National Monument. You'll come down to New Mexico, you'll join us for 3 days of training and preparation, and then on the morning of the 4th day, you're going to get into the world's first ever commercial space plane, and you're going to blast off. I could spend literally hours telling you all about the cool technology that makes this happen and more about the experience, but I really want to focus on the ride. We've tried to design something that feels like space because it is space, but yet is safe for just about everyone in the world. We have passengers who are into their 90s who have been medically cleared for flight. So this is very different than the NASA Astronaut Corps. I found out when I was 8 years old that I was unqualified for the NASA Astronaut Corps. I had this really terrible medical affliction called needing glasses. What a tragedy. I'll be passing a hat around later. That's how it goes with the NASA Astronaut Corps. If you're not a perfect physical specimen as well as a PhD astrophysicist and fighter pilot, you kind of don't make the grade. And I think there are a lot of other people who deserve to go to space and who have an interest to go to space, and so that's what we wanted to design. On our vehicle, you'll be accelerated up to about 3.5 times the speed of sound, which I don't see any astronauts in the room, so I'm guessing is probably the fastest any of you will have ever gone. You'll be experienced to G-forces, something like 5 or 6 G-forces, so it's something that you want to prepare for, but something that is medically safe. And you'll have a chance to experience true weightlessness. You'll have several minutes to get out of your seat, to float around, fly like Superman, or crawl the walls like Spider-Man, or do whatever you want to do. The thing most of our future astronauts are looking forward to the most is the view. A chance to look out of the window back on our home planet, see that view that only 547 people have ever seen. If any of you have a chance to meet an astronaut, or maybe you're friends with an astronaut, there certainly are some here in the greater LA area, if you ask them about it, you'll get the sense that just seeing this view out of the window really fundamentally changes people. This idea that you can look down on our home planet, you can see that most of our borders are imaginary lines. You can see that the atmosphere is this thin layer. You can see things like our water resources with your naked eyes. It really does fundamentally change people, and we're excited about bringing that opportunity to a lot more people. I mentioned at the top that 547 people have been to space. We've sold tickets to about 700 people. Now, 700 people is, I don't know, a few minutes worth of business perhaps for the Long Beach airport. In aviation terms, that's not very many, but in spaceflight terms, that's more than have ever gone in the history of the world, so we're really excited about that. That's 700 people who have paid about $250,000 apiece. Their money's in our bank account, and they're eagerly awaiting their flight to space. One thing I also like about it, and this is a picture of about 300 of those 700 customers when they came out here to California a few years ago. It's a pretty different group than the NASA Astronaut Corps or the Russian and Soviet Astronaut Corps. We are much more diverse. We have better gender ratio. We're not anywhere near parity yet, got a long way to go, but we're better in that sense. We have customers that come from, I think, 58 or 59 different nations. About 30 of those have never before seen one of their countrymen or countrywomen go into space. We got another couple dozen that will be the first ever female astronaut of their nation. And I think about in this country how lucky we are to have a chance to meet astronauts. You know, you can have an astronaut come and speak to your middle school. And I think about all the wonderful impacts that has on encouraging young people to study science, technology, engineering, and math. There are a lot of people in the world who have just never had that opportunity because there isn't an astronaut that looks like them. There's never been an astronaut that speaks their language or practices their religion or culture. I get really excited what happens when, we're going to have the first ever Colombian woman who goes to space, when she gets to go back and speak to her mayor and her university president, but also gets to go speak to the middle school students about the wonderful impacts of that. I'll point out most of these 700 people are going for fun. They are tourists, but we also are flying researchers here. NASA is a customer of ours. They're not a competitor, they're a customer. They're excited that we're offering them a lower cost and more responsive way to get their experiments into space. So we're really honored to be flying that, and I'm excited to work on that project. And we are now in the process of building our second Spaceship Two. Those of you who have heard of us before may know that we had a tragic accident in our test flight program late last year, but we're recovering from that nicely and building the next vehicle and hoping to get that back into test very, very shortly. One nice thing I want to point out is, we're not a spaceship, we are a space line. And just like you've probably never heard of an airline that only has one plane, we want to have multiple spaceships. So we, in fact, own our own manufacturing facility and are building an entire fleet of these things. So that's the stuff that's happening elsewhere. But we've now just moved here into Long Beach for our other major program, which is something that we call Launcher One. It takes on the same philosophy, except instead of sending human astronauts into space, we're talking about sending satellites into space. Now, there have been a lot more than 547 satellites that have gone into space, but it's still a pretty small number. And the thing that's weird to me is if you think about it, the first ever satellites that went into space, the Soviet Sputnik or the American Explorer, Explorer was about this big and it weighed about 100 pounds. Satellites these days are more like the size of this stage I'm standing on and weigh many, many tons. And that's really weird because think of any other type of electronics and how it looked in the early 1960s and how it looked today. You know, I've got more computing power than the entire Apollo program right here in the palm of my hand. Everything else has gotten smaller and cheaper, which means that now all of us have them. Satellites have gotten bigger and expensive, which means still not very many people have them. I doubt anyone in this room owns their own personal satellite. But interestingly enough, that trend is finally starting to change just within the last 10 years or so. Satellites have begun to shrink. You are starting to see universities building their own satellites. You're now starting to see Kickstarter campaigns building their own satellites, because now you can do it in a space that's not much bigger than this phone, because you can just go and buy electronics at Fry's or whatever it is, and some of them work in space. Now the thing is, it probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense to build a satellite for $10,000 if it then costs you $100 million to launch that satellite. So what we're bringing to the table is a cheaper way to get your satellites into space. We're building a vehicle called Launcher One. We're designing it to be the lowest price launch vehicle on the market. We won't take satellites the size of this stage. We'll take satellites the size of this podium, perhaps, and we'll do it for a single-digit $1 million. So not pocket change, but in our business, rounding errors, you know, accounting errors on a big NASA contract. We're designing this one in-house. We're making really fantastic technical progress on this. We are designing this vehicle from tip to tail, and at the tail of a rocket engine of a rocket vehicle is something really exciting. The rocket engine, we're now testing these in-house. You know, a lot of the major rocket engines in this country were designed in the 60s. Others of them were designed in the 60s in the Soviet Union. There's starting to be this cool trend, and so much of it is based here in the greater Los Angeles and Long Beach area. We're excited to be a key part of that. Just a few weeks ago, as I mentioned, we moved here into Long Beach. We were really happy to have some of our federal, state, county, and city leaders there to join us. So thank you to the mayor and to his staff for coming out to help us cut the ribbon on that event. This is a big deal for us. This is a 150,000 square foot manufacturing facility where we're going to be building rockets, many at a time. And that's a thank you very much. Thank you. We've moved about 60 or 70 of our current employees from other facilities down into Long Beach already, and we're hiring a lot more. Our first weekend that we had the keys to the new office, we opened it up to the public and had a little bit of an open house and a job fair. We were looking to fill about 50 jobs immediately and something like 100 or 150 over the course of the year. My stretch goal was to get 1,000 people. When we stopped counting, we'd had 6,000 people come through. I would guess we probably had somewhere on the order of 8,000 to 10,000 people join us that day. Which on the one hand made me wish I had ordered more porta potties, but on the other hand, it made me very excited and feel very welcomed. Not only did we have this fantastic local workforce, people who have worked for some of the many fantastic aviation companies, like the ones you're about to hear from, also students, but we had people flying in from as far away as New Jersey and Florida and Georgia, people who are excited to move to Long Beach and come help us build the future. I think that facility is going to grow, continue to grow. You know, our hope is to be 100, 125 people in that facility, but certainly by the end of the year, and to keep ramping up. We're never going to be tens of thousands of people there. We're a small company. You know, I like to say we are in our 10th year of being a pre-revenue startup. So we're not going to grow to be the size of workforce some of these other companies, but we are going to employ a couple hundred people at that building and maybe grow if our market continues to grow. The way we're going to do that is by continuing to build the best team that we possibly can. So I will point out, if I hadn't made it clear already, we are hiring. Please send your best folks that you know who are looking for us. We don't want to poach away from our neighbors, but we do want your students, and we do want your people of all ages who are looking to come and join a really exciting company, get a high-wage job, and help change the world. So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to the rest of the class.
All right, good morning. So those of you who have been paying attention know that I'm the last on the agenda, so stick with me. We'll make it through this. I've only got 58 slides. So thank you for letting us be a part of this event and this dialogue. This next year, Boeing will be celebrating our 100th year next July. Thank you. So I'm going to hit the Wayback Machine a little bit, and I'm going to just read something that our founder, Bill Boeing, said a while ago. He said, let me fix my old man glasses. We are embarked as pioneers upon a new science and industry in which our problems are so new and unusual that it behoves no one to dismiss any novel idea with the statement, "It can't be done." We still hear those words in our heads today, and I think you hear some of those words, from the other colleagues. There's always fun, exciting things to do. So similarly to others, I'm going to start with the big picture of Boeing and then kind of bring it down into both California and then greater Long Beach as well. But I wanted to start with a video to introduce kind of who we are and what we do.
It's been here from the very beginning. The vision, the focus, the passion. Not just to build something new or something different, but to build something better, to exceed expectations, to set new and higher standards, to expand the potential of what is and transform what could be into reality. Year after year, generation after generation, innovation after innovation, the passion and principles remain the same. To build something smarter, something stronger, something lighter, something faster, something safer, something greener, something bolder. To build something better for today, for tomorrow, for generations to come.
So for me and for a lot of my colleagues, it is a privilege to work for Boeing. I mean, we are a global company, but as we talk about the future, for the last 5 years in a row, Boeing's been named the #1 innovator in aerospace and defense. We've had 15,000 patents over the last 20 years. There was an interesting one in the paper that I'm not the least bit familiar with, but you might have read about. We have a patent on a force field. Not sure how we're going to do that, but those of us who grew up on Star Trek, that's kind of an exciting time. But we have, it's not just Boeing. We use a lot of talent around the world and a lot of companies. We have 21,000 suppliers and partners around the world. Boeing is the #1 exporter in the United States, and 70% of our commercial airplanes revenue comes from outside of the United States. We have customers in 150 countries, and we have employees in 65 countries. So our Boeing business mix, so we kind of loosely group ourselves into two main businesses. Boeing Commercial Airplanes, of which I'm a part, and sometimes you'll hear me say the words BCA, so that's kind of how we brand ourselves or talk about ourselves. And Boeing Defense, Space and Security. This proportion kind of oscillates over time, with commercial currently having the bigger slice right now. But even within each of these businesses, there are an array of different businesses. Commercial airplanes, we all know about the 777, the 787. But some of the fun things we do, we have a digital maintenance toolbox that we sell where rather than carry piles of paper out to an airplane, people just carry an iPad, how to maintain the airplane, how to repair it. And then on the defense side, we have the F-18, and the C-17, which are spectacular products. But we also have an unmanned submarine, an autonomous submarine. So a broad array of things. From a business perspective and trends, our goal in commercial airplanes right now is managing and keeping up with record demand and record backlogs for airplanes. And then on defense side is a little more challenging. You know, there's ongoing pressures with sequestration, with defense budgets, but that team is really focused on making sure they're providing the right capabilities at the right time and at the right cost. You know, it all drives back down to cost as well. So let's get into California. Actually, we are in California. Let's talk about California. So what does Boeing Business mean to California? So we have 17,000 employees in California, and that's the largest proportion of Boeing employees in any state outside of Washington State. But you know, the bigger piece of the pie is our supply base. So we spend $7.5 billion last year buying parts, services from businesses in California, from 3,100 businesses in California. And that directly translates to 200,000 direct jobs. And these are people pounding metal, making parts, doing design for Boeing, for a Boeing contract. So it's a huge impact. You know, and then all those folks, you know, go to restaurants, you know, buy cars. So I want you to hold on to the thought, we are the nation's leading exporter. So a big portion of that $7.5 billion that we spend here is in support of our export portfolio. Charitable investments in California. So being a part of the community is really important to us. And it's important to me, and it's really kind of great to work for a company that really invests in the community and wants to partner with the community. When we spend a lot of money, but more importantly, we spend a lot of time. I mean, we can all always go to work and earn more money, but we all have a finite amount of time. And when I see volunteers give their most precious resource, their time, it's always encouraging. Actually tomorrow we're going to be, a lot of our employees are going to join with Long Beach Parks and Recreation and City Council person Stacy Mungo, and we're going to help out at Hartwell Park. And if you ever get a chance to do these kind of things, 2 or 3 years ago, I got a chance to help out at Long Beach Community Action Partnership at their old location. And when you first show up, you know, everybody's kind of tentative. You don't know all the folks. And then as the day goes on, you see the smiles kind of grow. Because being a part of the community, helping build a strong, healthy community, I mean, it feels great, and it's great for all of us. And that's why we invest so much time and money in our communities. So what do we do in California? Well, let me look at my notes and we'll find out. So we've got a broad array of businesses all around the state. But you know, the real concentration is in Southern California. You know, if we go up to El Segundo, it's the largest satellite manufacturing facility in the world. And I do have to tell you, if you get a chance to go visit there or for a tour, please take it. You know, like a lot of this region, you know, this is a space filled with people with very bright minds and very creative. You know, we talk about the creative economy, and I know this sounds kind of odd. I perceive engineering as we perceive engineering as an extremely creative pursuit. I mean, doing new things, accomplishing new things, looking at the same problem a new way is critical. So if you get a chance, do that. Down in Huntington Beach, there's some really neat stuff going on, both in networks. The autonomous submarine was built there. You know, there's a Phantom Works division, so they're always doing a lot of very interesting things. Some of the things that none of us are allowed to know about, but some really clever and exciting things. In Greater Long Beach, and so I'm going to include Seal Beach in Greater Long Beach, because where our campus is, from Cal State Long Beach, if you've got a really good arm, you could probably hit it with a rock where we sit in Seal Beach. That's where we have our commercial airplanes team, and so I'll get into that a bit. And then, of course, we know the C-17, and it's part of the Long Beach. So I want to take a moment to talk about the C-17. We've all heard, you know, there's plenty of stories that talk about, yeah, this is the last year, you know, so many have been built and all those things, but I want to take a little moment, you know, to honor the C-17 team. This is an airplane that will be flying, probably well into the back half of this century. The people who, the children who have not yet been born will have an opportunity to become pilots on this airplane. So that, the story doesn't end here. But, for the people that work on the C-17, many of them have been together for 25 years, which is almost 1/4 of all human space flight, or human flight in total. They're part of a team. But as we were kind of talking about today, you can't talk about the C-17 without talking about the greater Long Beach community. I mean, we're all kind of part of the success story that is the 17. So, what I want to do is take a moment and recognize the entire community, and I'd like to have you all join me in helping this team finish this with pride and finish the last C-17 with pride. So let's give ourselves all a round of applause. So Boeing commercial airplanes. So I've been mostly in commercial airplanes my entire career, starting 32 years ago, which is a lot of laps around the sun. And I started with Douglas Aircraft here in Long Beach. And we've seen some changes. There's a lot of changes. But most importantly, last year, if you may recall, last April, we announced we were going to hire 1,000 more, mostly engineering jobs, to the greater Long Beach community. Oops, am I going too far? Okay, that was the wrong chart. But that's an exciting one to come. Yeah, I know these buildings aren't that thrilling. So we're adding 1,000 jobs, and actually we've mostly hired those folks. And there are 4 main areas that the team here focuses on. One is customer support, and that team is in Seal Beach. We've built a new 24/7 operations center. Boeing, we have 13,000 airplanes in service. And on any given day, we'll get or any given week, we'll get hundreds of calls and requests for service from customers as they need to continue to operate those airplanes. So it's important for us to be there and support those airplanes, not the ones just delivered yesterday, but the ones delivered 25 or even 30 years ago. So that team is setting up in Seal Beach. And in Long Beach, at the campus on the northeast corner of the airport. So one of my jobs, I used to work on navigation systems, so don't worry about my directions. So we have an engineering team, a design center that provides engineering design work for all the new Boeing production airplanes. 777X, 787-10, 737 MAX, so there's always a lot happening. We also have a modifications and conversions business in Long Beach, and that's a team that does interior upgrades to airplanes once they're in service, avionics upgrades, freighter or passenger to freighter conversions, where some of the old wide bodies, you'll take an airplane, take everything out, replace the floor, cut a big hole, put a door, put it back into service as a freighter. The job's actually a little bigger than that sounds, but so there's a lot of exciting things. And the last team we have is a material services team that provides spare parts support to all 13,000 of those airplanes as well. So it's a new chapter, and it's a growing chapter for Long Beach. So things are going well at Boeing. We've got a good backlog, and what keeps us up at night? Well, one of them is Export-Import Bank reauthorization. So, I kind of look at your face and say, what in the world does that have to do with a regional economic forum? So if you remember, if you were paying attention to me, that we are the nation's largest exporter. And what the Export-Import Bank does is it provides credit support for exports, and it's really focused on supporting export jobs in the United States. And right now, it's so it's really important that this gets reauthorized. We like competition. Competition we can handle, but right now we've got a competitor, and they're already enjoying a nice exchange rate bonus from the from the strong dollar. And if we let the Export-Import Bank expire, we will lose market share. And if we lose market share, that will impact the $7.5 billion that we spend in California. that will impact the 200,000 jobs. It will impact our team. And these are, this is money all coming into California. It expands the thing. So we stress about the Export-Import Bank reauthorization. It's also kind of fun to note that this is a federal agency that actually makes money. So that, to me, that feels like a good thing. We like to make money. The other thing that's important to us is stability and predictability. So we're happy and we applaud all the work that our local representatives and the state representatives have been doing in recognizing the importance, of improving the business environment in the state. Community and state leaders have worked hard over the past several years to support aerospace companies, but we need to keep a sustained effort and keep that, that dialogue going and collaborative relationships. Because, to help us compete in the global marketplace, we need to work in a space where, we've got, sensible and predictable regulations. A lot of investments in education. Coming to Southern California, or the decision to add 1,000 jobs in engineering in California, in some ways, it was the low-risk solution. It was because of the great work of universities like Cal State University, Long Beach, and all the resources here that continue to provide that creative and adaptive talent pipeline. I mean, that's what this place has to offer. But we've got to make sure that, that the business environment supports it as well. Investments in transportation infrastructure, and a balanced and stable state tax policy. So being predictable, so we can know our costs and we can focus on developing the next talent and developing the next level of innovation and just keep going into the future, because that's what we're focused on, is the next 100 years. So in total, business is good. But, and we finished 100 years. So when you finish 100 years, you high five. But we know we've got another 100 years to go. And that's what we're focused on now, is going out that next 100 years. And we need the support of the community, and we appreciate the support of the community. And so I wanted to thank you for letting us be a part of this dialogue. And more importantly, thank you for letting us continue to be a part of the Long Beach community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for your great remarks. It was really nice to learn more about all three businesses and what's happening here in the community. So since we have a few minutes, there should be someone with a microphone. Okay, great. We have a couple of minutes for questions from the audience, but before we get started, I'm going to ask that in the interest of time, you only ask questions, okay? No speeches. If you have a question for our panelists, let's take advantage of their expertise while they're up here. And if you don't have a question, please don't raise your hand. So, all right.
We have a question.
We've got a question over there. You want to take the microphone over to him? Yeah, raise your hand and he can bring you the microphone so everyone can hear your question.
I promise I won't make a statement. My name is Bruce Double D. McRae with UPS. Sustainability. Thank you. Thank you. We use Boeing planes now. Sustainability is key in my company. Sustainability in the state of California, if you haven't looked at the legislation that's moving forward, how is that going to impact our future with zero emission vehicles mandated by 2020?
Anyone want to take that, or?
More technology-wise, you're all in the technology systems.
Yeah.
I mean, you all. I mean, from healthcare. When we move goods from our port and we look at the form that we just did, zero emissions, the technology's not there yet. Yet it's going to be mandated when you look at the state of California mandating it to all businesses on the last mile gone. How do we conquer that? And I look at our friends at Boeing and how do we conquer that?
So I think the most important thing to think about, and our key point is approaching, the future in a collaborative way. What makes sense and what doesn't make sense. Now I can say without prejudice that I know almost nothing about the zero emission program. However, what I do know is that it is important to have that dialogue together, to have the dialogue with the universities, with state and local officials, so that we're kind of all supporting each other. We all share this great state, and we all share these resources, and we have to carefully guard all these resources, but we have to do it, as part of a dialogue that helps support us all going forward. So I know I didn't directly answer your question, but we got to just continue to keep that dialogue going and keep the collaboration so we hear all sides of the story and find the solution that way. And thank you for buying all the airplanes. We really do appreciate it.
Anyone else? Anyone else want to?
Yeah, I'll add briefly. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a bigger advocate for sustainability issues than Richard Branson. It's interesting, the way we connected. I mentioned there was this small team in California, Mojave, California, that built our human spaceflight vehicle. The way Richard and the Virgin Group connected with them is because we hired them to do a project called the Virgin Atlantic Global Flyer, which was the first vehicle to fly around the world nonstop without refueling with a single pilot. One of the main reasons that the Virgin Group, which is also a big customer of Boeing commercial airplanes, I'll point out, one of the main reasons they're interested in a project like Virgin Galactic. Richard wants to make money off this project, but there are a lot easier ways to make a buck than starting the world's first commercial space line. One of the main reasons he wanted to do it was to push the envelope, to find new technologies. Everything on our vehicle has to be efficient. Everything has to be lightweight, or we don't make it to space. So the hope is that we're sort of putting new ideas out there and generating ideas that will someday be incorporated back into 797s, whatever comes next down the road, and other aircraft as well.
Well, I guess I get the last word in, having nothing to do with transportation. Bruce, you asked about the mandates. I think there's an old saying that says something like, nothing focuses the mind than the sight of a noose. Without mandates, sometimes there's no progress. And if you grew up in Long Beach, air quality is so important. I think there's a higher percentage of children with asthma in parts of Long Beach than there are nationwide, and zero emissions will go a long way to improving the health of our community.
Mm-hmm.
Get another person.
All of you had an opportunity to make a decision to locate your businesses in Long Beach. I know there's a certain amount of tradition of Long Beach, but could you all share what made you choose Long Beach as the site for your businesses or expansion of your businesses? Why you didn't choose to move, for example, for Molina Healthcare and Boeing, why you didn't choose to move to other locations that you have, and what policies of a city would make you think twice or think about moving away from locating your businesses in Long Beach?
Do you want to go in the same order, or you want to go back?
Go ahead.
So there are always a lot of factors, and if we look at Boeing in total, we are a global company, and we have employees, I think, pretty much in every state. So if we just look at the recent decision to put people, to bring up another 1,000 people for commercial airplanes, it takes into a lot of things. A big part of it is, the resources and the infrastructure. A lot of it, these are high-wage jobs that require a lot of education. So the availability of students out of Cal State University of Long Beach and the other great universities in the area. Being a UCLA grad, I'll also include USC in this list, although I'm a little conflicted about that. So, operating in Southern California, it's not the low-cost site, certainly, but it was the low-risk site. And we're working, and you might have heard of some of our dialogue in the paper about geographic diversification, being able to gather talent and leverage talent from around the country. So the resources here were key in that, in the partnerships in the community. But then we have to stay vigilant on making sure we don't make it much more difficult to operate a business in California. I mean, all businesses always have choices, and our competitors always have choices. And so that's who we battle against, and that's who we have to pay attention to. And kind of where I was before, competition doesn't bother us. Competition is great. It keeps us sharp. It brought us the 787. It brought us the new 777X. But we've got to be able to work together as a community and find the right solutions as a community. So that's, you hear me repeat dialogue a lot, but that's just really important.
Yeah, for us, we're the new kids on the block. The reasons why we chose to build this new facility here in Long Beach, well, there were, as you can imagine, many. It was nice to be right on an airport. It was nice to be, it was critical that we be a relatively short commute away from our other main facility in Mojave, California. We didn't want to add on it. We are already a small company that spans 9 time zones, didn't want to add any more of those if we could possibly avoid it. But if I had to boil it down to the key things, one was, it was really the availability of talent, supply chain, but people who have spent a long time building cool airplanes and working at the companies that do that. That's critical for us. In terms of what will be necessary, I think, to keep us here, we're quite unique in our industry, where basically every other company in our particular industry is highly dependent on the government for contracts. We have basically nothing to do with the government. I'd say maybe 1% of our business is the government, and we don't really have a policy person. We don't really pay attention to this. We don't need the news to focus us, and please don't give us any nooses to focus on. I think would be the main thing.
Yeah.
The mayor's office has been great in helping us work out some of the local regulations, make them work for us, and if that attitude continues, I think we'll be here for a long time.
I was born in Long Beach, so this is home. It's always been home. I think the thing that keeps us here is the quality of life. As these two gentlemen have said, the talent pool is terrific. It is cheaper in some place like Topeka, Kansas, but I don't want to live there. And I think the one impediment that we have to our expansion, parking. We could build more if we could find places to park folks.
Okay, we got another question there in the back.
Will, you're the new kid on the block. But Tim, could you explain a little bit about what's happened with Sea Launch, the Boeing Sea Launch, which was shooting satellites up in the equator and right over here at Long Beach?
So I'm going to answer your question pretty quickly. No. So I apologize. I know very little about Sea Launch, but you know what I can do? If you want to catch me after this event, I'll make sure and get you in contact with people who really know about that project. I do remember some of the old dialogue. That the Port of Long Beach is unique, and it's one of the only ports, and probably the only port in the world that actually exports to space. But please see me after, and I can make sure we can get you contacted with that. And I apologize for not being up on that one.
Any other questions? Got one up here.
Well, if I call my wife and convince her that your price tag is the cheapest way she can get me off this planet, how long will she have to wait till I'm gone?
Well phrased.
That was well phrased, yeah. Well, first I'll point out all of our trips are round trip. We did a while ago sell a ticket to a very to a young pop star who tends to generate very strong opinions, and I think there was actually an official petition on change.org for us to throw him out the airlock at the top. Thankfully, we don't have an airlock, so. In terms of when we'll fly, the only answer I give is it'll fly when it's ready. Yeah. We work really, really hard to make sure our schedules are dictated by safety and by engineering and not by marketing or anything else. That said, we're pretty darn close. We have spent about a decade developing these vehicles. We were right towards the end of a test flight program when we had our setback late last year. Thankfully, there's an ongoing accident investigation being run by the National Transportation Safety Board, and they haven't issued their final report yet, but based on everything they've said thus far, The vehicle was fine. The design of the vehicle was fine. That wasn't what caused the problem. It was something else. So that is encouraging in that it means we can press on with the next vehicle. So I can't give you an exact timeline. It's probably not this year, but it's also certainly not a decade from now. It's probably something more like next year-ish. And we're working hard to make it as soon as possible.
Impressive.
Okay, well, I'll close with one question from me. What can institutions like Cal State Long Beach do to help you, your business, your industry be successful here?
So I'm going to start with, so we enjoy a really great partnership with Cal State Long Beach. We have a lab that we operate, or that actually your students kind of operate. You know, and continuing that collaboration, you know, on seeing what you guys have to offer, and you know what we need going to for the next 100 years. So it's continued to develop that pipeline, and you know, programs like the Long Beach Promise is a great help, you know, in just reaching the entire community and making sure we grab that whole diversity of, which is really the beauty of Southern California, is the diversity, and making sure we pull that entire diversity into the pipeline. So the work that you do for that and the dialogue and collaboration we have together is what we value and what we'll need going forward.
I've said it before, I'll say it again, send us your students. We're hiring quickly. We are now mature enough where we are hiring people who are just beginning their careers rather than people who already have a couple decades under their belts. So send us those. It's not just engineers, although we certainly need those, but we have business support staff, and we have a fashion designer on staff. It really comes from all departments. One other idea I'll share, since I have a captive audience of the president of a university here. It's going to happen really soon, very soon, that the first university is going to say, you know what, every year the engineering class at my school flies an experiment into space, every single year. It's going to there are universities that are talking to us now.
Oh, cool.
It'd be awesome if it was a local university that said that.
Yeah.
Well, I would just echo what these two gentlemen have said. Reach out to us, we'll reach out to you. We want your students, and don't look at it from a narrow focus that we're healthcare. We've got IT, accounting. We've got 4 campuses. We'd love to have some public art in those spaces. So if you've got students, we got a need for them.
Oh, that's
Great.
good. Yeah.
Great. Well, with that, I think we'll call it a day. And thank you to all our panelists. Thank you all for being here today. And enjoy the rest of your Friday. Thanks.